Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Antonio Tabarro, Christopher Garabedian, Jose Valdez, and Christopher Suarez. And our topic is police brutality in the United States. The group research question we asked ourselves was one questioning what are the social, economic, political, and psychological retributions of police brutality in the United States today. Our argument is that police brutality exerts a prominently negative influence on American society and that police officers may be given different status in the legal system. The common counter-argument to this is that the testimonies of police officers are given the same neutral credibility status as any other individual that testifies in court. In reality, this is not the case, as police officers are given special credibility in court as they work closely with the legal system. In simpler terms, the officers who are held in courts have a bias placed in their favor due to their connections with the government as a police force, leading to the public having better chances of not getting convicted for the deed that they have carried out. Moving on to the social ones. One of the most antagonizing social factors affecting American culture today is the police brutality and its particularly latent influence on minority communities. In addition to being a source of perpetual confluence for the media to diffuse to the public, it portrays the American justice and legal system in a very corrupt manner. The reason for this being that police officers are given special courtroom credibility with the judges and jurors, which in turn can alter the verdict of the case. This may result in a guilty police officer being acquitted. What commonly follows these popular trials is protesting and public opposition to the verdict. The protests involve modern civil rights groups like Black Lives Matter, which largely manifest American countercultural movements and offer a public voice for American minority communities, and a means to express their outrage at the injustice of the legal system. To help restore credibility to police officers often wear body-worn cameras, which are implemented on the uniforms so that interactions with police officers have with other individuals can later be used as courtroom evidence. These cameras also establish, in essence, a legal barrier between the perpetrator and the officer, so each individual involved in the interaction understands that their actions will be reported. Furthermore, police brutality has polarized much of the American public on where they stand on the issue. How far should police officers go to enforce the law as public defenders? Moving on to Chris with the political lens.
Thank you, Antonio. Jumping into the political lens of the argument and the question that it presents. Should the federal government play a role in police actions? The arrest of Eric Garner is a prime example of the government pulling its punches on the police. As Eric Garner died during his arrest because the police officer responsible used an illegal takedown technique known as the chokehold, as presented here. The chokehold is banned by the police department of Chicago, and even so, the officer held responsible for this event was not punished for his crimes. What does this mean? The courtroom bent on upholding the law failed to serve their purpose, and justice to the family of Eric Garner, as the officer responsible for his death was not punished for breaking the law that he is meant to uphold and enforce. Now here's Chris with the socioeconomic lens.
Thank you, Chris. So with the socioeconomic lens, we're looking at how do police show use of excessive force on low-income and minority people, low-income and minorities in neighborhoods. Studies done by both Hannah Cooper and Beer show that in an 8-block radius of a predominantly Black Latino community of New York, where 52,000 people in the neighborhood of 14,000 were stopped and frisked, 94% of people committed no offense were arrested. Similarly, Todd Beer suggests in his data gathering of police shootings from the years 2014 to 2017 that Afro-Americans make up 48% of the victims in police confrontations. Osei Owusu provides a pristine example of this use of excessive force when police officers during a drug raid killed a 92-year-old Afro-American woman. To make matters worse, when they found no drugs in the apartment, they planted cocaine and marijuana to cover up the use of excessive force. This photo here shows how Afro-Americans view the police and how they view how they're viewed by police, on how they quite literally are born with a target on them. And now here's Jose with the psychological lens.
Thank you, Chris. An experiment done by Stanford University tested a group of students who were giving superior authority as prison guards over another group who were the prisoners. After 6 days of the study, which was supposed to last 2 weeks, it concluded how when put in a position of authority, it is a human innate feeling to fully exercise it, and in extreme cases abuse this power. Some of the students who were guards went as far as to use their power to demoralize and de-individualize the inferior prisoners. This use of excessive force affects society's perception of the institution. In this video that it's about to show up, we can see Eric Garner who was falsely accused of committing a crime, and the police officer aggressively charged at him, forcefully pinning him down. Eric Garner, who suffered from asthma, died after being choked by the police, and even after he spoke the words, "I can't breathe." The police officer, in this case, showed an excessive use of the superior authority. Events like the one between Gardner and the officer are changing the way in which the public and minorities perceive the police. These events are increasing tension between the two groups, leading to minorities who lost respect towards the police and police officers who want to exercise their superiority in the arrest to pay up for this respect. A mapping tracker of police shooting in the US in 2017, the police killed 1,147 people in the US. More than 30% were unarmed African Americans who experienced excessive use of force by the police. 987 of these cases were police using fatal force. This has led to a study by the University of Oklahoma Health and Science Center, which found minorities who are more likely to hold a negative attitude towards the police. Moving on to Chris with the first resolution.
One of our resolutions is to implement body cameras across all 50 states in the continental US. Our limitations to this, though, is incredibly expensive. For example, in Michigan, it costs them about $250 million every 5 years to fund all the cameras and the storing of the data of these cameras. So it would be very unpractical for the US to do this. Here is Jose for the other.
Another resolution would be the creation of a national database which keeps track of encounters, of police encounters. But the limitations to this, like in Chris's resolution, would be that there's not enough funding to create such a database. Furthermore, a lack of bias, as the database could be corrupt and altered by the way the police reports the cases.
These are our words.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask you guys a question. Garabian, in the future, what change would you make to your group norms, and how would you expect that to improve the team presentation?
I believe more practicing and more preparation for next times, if we ever do one next presentation, so we can be more prepared for questions like these, or we can connect to each other more how should I say this? More synthetically, I guess would be the word. As in, we could work together more often, we could work together and connect more during the presentation, leading to maybe more solutions, maybe more insight into how police brutality can be interpreted by the people, or how it can be resolved through more solutions.
Okay, Chris, describe how the content of the team presentation was changed as a result of the group discussion.
Well, in our group discussion, a lot of it, we focused on our own lenses, per se. And when we got together and we saw how each of us connected with each other's, when we started the group discussion, we started to round out, as you saw in our first presentation, we started to round out all the unnecessary things, trying to prove our own points, and we go as a group to prove the point of the group argument on how the police are corrupt not only in the judicial system, but are corrupted towards minorities.
Okay, thank you. Antonio, what is a way in which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your own individual research?
Well, the team's resolution largely involved the implementation of body-worn cameras on police officer uniforms. In my research, I also discussed the possibility of implementing body-worn cameras, but as they brought up the limitations to our solution, the cost of this would be, astronomical to implement on a national scale. So it made me consider the financial aspects of implementing the body-worn camera as it related to my socio-cultural lens.
Okay, thank you. Jose, having finished your project, what, if anything, do you consider to be a gap in your team's research that, if addressed, will make you feel more confident about your conclusion?
Well, a gap in our team research is the fact that there's so much money that goes into putting all these resolutions and all these arguments together that it would be better if it was more financially stable, that we could implement some of the things like the body cameras and the things like the national database. We could implement these as our team resolution.
Okay, thank you.